Make a start now. So welcome everyone. I'm to today's webinar, ATA Carnets, The Future is Digital. My name's Anne White, and I'm going to quickly mention a bit about the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. We're the accredited Chamber of Commerce for Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, Swindon and Heathrow. And like every other accredited chamber in the country, we offer a wide range of international trade services for our members and clients. Before we start today's session, a few housekeeping. This session is actually being recorded. The recording will be available to you after the event as well, so you can look at it again at your own leisure. We will send it out to all delegates and also those delegates that aren't able to attend who wish to. Thank you in advance for the pre-questions. I mean, that they were very interesting. There were some really good questions asked, so we thank you for that. And a lot of those will be covered in today's session. But if you do have any questions that you have as we go through the session, please put them in the Q&A section or on the chat. Some people prefer either, so it's entirely up to you. So today's webinar. So with digitalisation sweeping through all aspects of global trade and the introduction of the world government's single window customs platform, more and more traditional hard copy documents are becoming electronic. This webinar will focus on the digital ATA Carnets, the passport for goods document for temporary exports, highlighting how the approach will transform the ATA Carnet system and make the process a lot easier for those people using ATA Carnets. It will ensure accuracy, security, and also speed, so which is a benefit of the to enable you to get through customs quicker. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to our main panelist today, Davor Antonic-McKinley, who is head of the ATA Carnet Procedures and Compliance at the UK National ATA Carnet Organisation. Thank you very much, Davor. Over to you.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for the introduction. It is my absolute pleasure to be here today. My warmest regards to the viewers. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar. It will certainly give you a flavour of what the future holds for digital carnets and for ATA Carnets. Today's panel is made up of three of us. So first of all, Anne White, who is head of international trade and compliance at Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. She's an absolute expert with over 35 years of experience in private and public sector, and this extends to trade development, facilitation, compliance, and EU-funded projects. And her specialisms include rules of origins, FTAs, and customs compliance. I've worked with Anne over many years, so I have a lot of respect for her expertise and knowledge. Liana Ward manages the Heathrow trade documentation team at Thames Valley. Again, she's an expert on carnets, and she has responsibility to make sure that all carnets at Thames Valley are issued in compliance with international rules. Liana is also a qualified customs agent with over 20 years of experience in the field of customs procedures, rules of origins, and trade preference. And finally, a bit about myself. So I've been looking after the London Chamber of Commerce's trade documentation since 2008, and since last year I've been heading up the UK National ATA Carnet Organisation, which looks after the ATA Carnets at the national level. I also represent United Kingdom at the World ATA Carnet Council, and I've also been sitting on the Digital Carnet project team since 2017. In terms of today's agenda, so we will first remind ourselves as to what ATA Carnets are. We will then look at how digital carnets will work, and we will do a brief comparison between digital and paper carnets so that our viewers get an idea of how things will work in the future. And then, of course, we will talk about some timelines in terms of how and when digital carnets will be implemented. And as Anne said, there will be plenty of opportunity for our viewers to ask questions. So in terms of ATA Carnets, so hopefully we all know this. So ATA Carnets is an international customs document which permits duty-free temporary admission of commercial samples, professional equipment, and goods for trade fairs and exhibitions, and each carnet is valid for 1 year from the issue date. ATA Carnets cut red tape by simplifying and unifying customs border crossing regulations in over 80 countries and territories around the world. In terms of Carnet digitalization, the project started in 2007. However, the real momentum gathered from 2017 when World Customs Organization approved the International Chamber of Commerce EATA concept. UK is currently one of the digital Carnet pilots, and I would like to take this opportunity to invite all of you taking part in this webinar to get involved with digital Carnets and test them, trial them, use them in countries that also are piloting digital Carnets to make sure that you know the infrastructure, you know how it works, and to actually allow us to improve the processes even further. So in terms of how the digital Carnets will work, so the application process will remain the same. So you will apply through your existing issuing systems. However, the delivery of the document will, of course, be different. So instead of the applicant receiving a paper Carnet, you will be receiving a PIN that will allow you to download digital Carnet to your smartphone. And you can actually see the picture of how this could look on the right-hand side. The applicant or the holder then completes or creates the itineraries within the app, and that encapsulates all the data within the QR code. That QR code is then presented to customs at the border, and customs will then scan it, and that will allow them to actually process this Carnet transaction. Once customs process the transaction, it will be visible in the customs portal, it will be visible to the Carnet holder or the applicant, and it will also be visible to the issuing chamber. So this is a major plus compared to the paper Carnets, so that everyone will have real-time visibility of all the Carnet transactions. And also digital Carnet transactions can be cancelled by customs if required. So for example, if the holder realizes they've declared incorrect items or something is incorrect within the declaration, they can go to customs, show them the cancellation code, and customs can then cancel the transaction and process a new one. So what you can see on the screen in front of you now is the actual Carnet wallet itself. So this is what Carnet users or Carnet holders will be using to download the digital Carnet to and create all the transactions. So this is a screenshot of the login screen. And this gives you an idea of how various individual travels or itinerary will look in the digital Carnet app. So effectively, the user will be setting up itinerary in terms of how they travel. So in this case, we are going from United Kingdom to Albania. Then after Albania, we are going to Greece. And after Greece, we are returning to UK. So the beauty of this is that you don't need to know, if you compare it to a paper Carnet, on paper Carnet, you have to complete various vouchers. So that's exportation, import, re-export, re-import. With a digital Carnet, you are literally setting up the itinerary, and that guides you forward. Once the Carnet holder enters all the relevant information into the app, so that's basically what items you are declaring to customs. So that can either be all items or it can be partial shipment, the mode of transport, packaging, and destination. Then the system, then the app will create a QR code, and that QR code can then be forwarded to an agent or a freight or a driver, basically. So if the goods are not being hand carried, if they are being transported by an agent or a forwarder, they can basically the declaration can be created by the holder, and it can be forwarded to either the driver or to the agent directly from the app. Basically, you click on this button and the system will then allow you to email it, print it, send it via WhatsApp, send it by any possible piece of software you can think of. Once the Carnet user gets to the customs, so basically what they will do is they will present the QR code So you can see this on the right-hand side. So that QR code will be presented to the customs. Customs will log into their portal and they will scan that particular QR code. And this will then allow them to see what items have been declared, what goods are being taken. They can also see previous transactions on that Carnet, and then it allows them to add any additional information and then commit the transaction. So once the transaction is committed or accepted by customs, basically customs are going to see those transactions in their portal. The Carnet holder is going to see it in the Carnet app or the wallet. So here you can see an example of a Carnet that went from Heathrow to Belgium. So export from Heathrow, import into Belgium, re-export from Belgium, and re-import back into Heathrow. And again, this supports the idea of total real-time visibility of all the digital Carnet transactions. So the holder will know exactly where their goods actually are. So in terms of giving you an idea as to how digital Carnets are going to compare to the paper Carnets, we've divided this into various activity types. So tracking of the goods. So on the paper Carnet, the holder will only know where the goods have been once the Carnet comes back. So effectively, the Carnet comes back, they will look at the counterfoils, and those counterfoils will have stamps from the relevant customs organizations showing where that Carnet was processed. On a digital Carnet, chamber, customs, and the holder will know exactly where their goods are and what items have been declared in real time, basically. So that will, as I said, appear in the customs, in the Carnet wallet, and it will also appear in the issuing system. In terms of using the Carnet, on a paper Carnet, each voucher has to be completed individually. Again, there are different types of vouchers. So inexperienced Carnet user could potentially complete an incorrect voucher and also present an incorrect voucher, which could lead to sort of problems down the line. On a digital Carnet, as we've seen in the screenshot, the itinerary is created as a complete travel. So basically what you're saying is I'm traveling from UK, let's say, to Greece. And of course, you know, it's easy to recognize which QR code needs to be used for each type of part of the journey. So effectively, this minimizes the risk of using an incorrect declaration. Also, if the Carnet holder presents an incorrect declaration or the incorrect QR code to customs, the system will actually refuse it. So for example, if you are exiting the UK, of course, the UK customs are meant to process exportation, and by mistake, you present them with the QR code for importation into Greece, UK customs system is going to reject that QR code. It will basically say that QR code is not valid for UK. So effectively, this will prevent incorrect declarations to be processed, as it sometimes happens on a paper Carnet. Again, in terms of customs stamping the Carnet, at the moment, paper Carnet can only be stamped if customs are physically present. So, and also, as we said earlier, if you present an incorrect voucher, customs could potentially process the incorrect voucher, and then they can also endorse the incorrect counterfoil. On a digital Carnet, customs presence is not necessarily going to be essential, purely because holders will also be able to pre-declare their Carnet declarations. So if the goods are being moved through a cargo port or another sort of a port that, you know, where the Carnet holder cannot get in touch with the customs, then you'll be able to use pre-declaration, and customs are going to be able to process that digital Carnet remotely. So again, it will open up a whole new world of opportunities and process simplifications in terms of how those Carnets are being processed. And as I said, because the system knows which QR code or which declaration has to be used in what country, it will prevent incorrect QR code or incorrect declaration to be used in specific countries. In terms of the risks, and anyone who's used the Carnet before will be fully aware that paper Carnets can be lost. And of course, digital Carnets cannot be lost. For example, if you lose your smartphone or something happens, you can always download the Carnet wallet to your new phone, and you can import that Carnet onto the new phone as well, and create your declarations and everything else. So the beauty of digital Carnets is Carnet cannot be lost, therefore it's going to be much easier to use. And of course, it also reduces the costs because the Carnet holder will not have to get a substitute Carnet. So effectively, we believe that moving to digital Carnets will ease the administrative burdens of traditional paper Carnets, and it will save businesses time and money, whilst also reducing risks and environmental impact. In terms of the digital Carnet timelines, we've done successful testing, initial testing of the digital Carnet infrastructure in May of last year. Quarter one of this year, we've trained all the UK issuing bodies, including Thames Valley, of course. And in this quarter, we have seen the start of the UK nationwide pilot. So we would like to encourage everyone who is logged into this webinar to actually apply for digital Carnet through their chamber and to actually start playing with those Carnets and also transact them through Heathrow Airport. Of course, quarter four of this year and quarter one of next year will be what we call preparation phase. So we will still keep testing all the Carnets, digital Carnets across pilot ports, and HMRC is also working on a national plan which will include how to roll out the digital facility to the rest of the UK and when we will actually go live. The current estimates are that digital Carnets will go live at some point in 2025. Of course, this will not be just down to UK. We will also need other countries to go live before we can start using digital Carnets, because there is no point in UK going live and UK customs processing digital Carnets, but then when you arrive at your destination, there is no one there to process the Carnet on that side. So of course, it will be a combined international effort to make sure that digitalization can kind of take place around the world. At the moment, there are several countries which are involved in testing of digital Carnets, which means when you apply for your paper Carnet, and if you end up going to any of these destinations, so let's say Belgium, Canada, China, Estonia, Norway, or Switzerland, you can also apply. You can also get a digital Carnet, and that digital Carnet can then be processed alongside the paper Carnet to get you an idea to give you an idea of how the digital Carnets are going to work. So if any of you is traveling from London Heathrow Airport to any of these airports mentioned in this particular table, then by all means, ask the issuing chamber for the digital Carnet and then use it alongside your paper Carnet to see how the digital infrastructure will work. For those who are not very good with tables, I think this map also clearly illustrates as to how, what countries are actually piloting digital Carnets at the moment. So we've got, of course, Canada, UK, Belgium, Switzerland. We are waiting for France to enter into the pilot shortly. Of course, Norway, Russia, and China. But of course, we are currently not issuing Carnets for Russia, but hopefully once everything goes back to normal, again, there will be one of the initial digital Carnet destinations. And I believe Australia is also making some preparations to start testing the digital Carnets as well. So anyone traveling to these destinations, by all means, ask the Thames Valley Chamber to also issue with the counterpart digital Carnet, and then you can see how that will actually work. As I've said earlier, so digital Carnets will be issued via your existing issuing system. So there will be no change to the application process as it is now. anyone who decides to test digital carnets, you need to remember that you will have to use both paper carnet and digital carnet in tandem. So the paper carnet will have to be processed first, and then the digital carnet will be processed afterwards. And of course, whilst we are testing the digital carnets, paper carnet remains the only legally acceptable form of temporary admission. Of course, what we are trying to do is we are trying to make sure that the digital infrastructure works correctly, that all the transactions in the customs systems are correct, that there is clear visibility in the holders app, issuing systems, so that way we can move forward with transitioning to digital carnets with confidence. So this is probably as far as I would go on my presentation on digital carnet functionality, and we will now open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Davor. Questions have been flying in, which is good, and that was something I would have anticipated, because obviously this is very, very new. And as Davor said, without people participating in the pilot, we are not going to be able to move this along as soon as possible in order for everyone's life to be made a lot easier, because I think it will make everybody's life a bit easier, and that comes from the users of the carnet. So let's just start with some of the questions that have come in. Somebody's asked, Davor, can an itinerary be amended while the goods are en route?
Right. Unfortunately not, because this is something that's actually driven by the international conventions. So international conventions state that once the carnet has been issued, you cannot make any amendments to it. So at this point in time, it will not be possible. Of course, when we go forward in future, if there is a business case for it, and if the World Customs Organization agrees to it, then those changes could be made. But at the moment, it will be the same as the paper carnet. So, yeah.
So that emphasizes the actual standard rules do not change. It's just the way it's actually being processed and used through the journey. So yeah, that makes sense.
Correct, yeah.
Can different people use the carnet for visits during the year? If so, what needs to be done? I think it's all about that QR code, is it not?
Yes. So let me go back to that screen because it will be easier to visualize it. So what happens is, if you look at this, the sort of image in the middle of your screen, which says travels. So effectively, so you can have one person in the company creating those travels, and then those travels can be forwarded to individual people. So for example, if someone is doing the trip from UK to Albania, then this QR code here can be forwarded to that driver. If a different person is going from Albania to Greece, or of course, if they're doing a totally different itinerary using partial shipment, of course, then of course there would be another QR code created for that within the app, and that relevant QR code can then be forwarded to the person that's going to be presenting the goods to the customs. So it is possible, and as I said, because everything will be running according to the itinerary itself. So you just need to make sure that when you're creating your travel within the app, you are clear as to what goods are going where, because then that will allow you to create individual QR codes, and those individual QR codes can be then forwarded to the driver or to the person carrying those goods.
And of course, it's also important, obviously, that person is an authorized user, either named or has that letter of authority. Is that still correct, Davor?
That's correct, yes. So hopefully probably in about a couple of weeks' time, what the app will allow users to do, it will allow them to upload the letter of authorization into each declaration. So effectively, if you know who's going to be traveling with those goods, you can upload that letter of authorization into this against the individual QR code. So for each leg of the journey, you'll be able to upload a different letter, and that will then, of course, make sure that you are compliant with those particular requirements.
Fantastic. Somebody's also asked, are there any limits on the number of vouchers you can have in that single digital carnet?
That's a good question. This will be down to the each individual issuing chamber. So So to give you an idea, when we were training the issuing network, I've created a test carnet for each chamber, and that test carnet had 99 exits, 99 visits, and 99 transits. So we know that the digital infrastructure will support a lot of visits and a lot of transits, but of course, each individual chamber decides as to what the upper limit could potentially be. So that's down to your issuing chamber.
Some companies on the line from Germany, so who are quite keen to see whether the German authorities will be taking part in the pilot anytime soon.
German customs are making a very good progress, actually, in terms of the pilot. If you can see, so on this map, at the moment, the involvement is from the German issuing chambers. So German issuing chambers are currently implementing the necessary infrastructure to allow them to issue digital carnets. I think once this process is complete, then the German customs will probably follow, and they will start processing test digital carnets as well. So all I can say is Germany is currently in progress, and we expect them to start accepting test digital carnets in the near future.
Fantastic. So somebody's asked, is the QR code actually to be fixed onto the goods being shipped?
Yes, definitely. So if goods are traveling by cargo, yes, usually you will have all the documents in the pouch, which is affixed to the actual pallet itself. So that can definitely be done. But also what we are developing at the International Chamber project team level is a pre-declaration facility. So instead of having to print the QR code and affixing it to the pallet, you will be able to literally say, okay, I'm traveling, let's say, from London Heathrow to, I don't know, JFK cargo terminal, and you will be able to pre-declare that shipment. So customs are basically, let me go back to this screen. So customs are going to see the transaction in their own screen. So you can see here on the left, this is how customs process QR code. There will be a section on the left of that screen that will show them pre-notifications and pre-declarations. So effectively, you'll be able to push that QR code to them electronically, and they will actually see it even before the goods leave the UK. So once those goods arrive, they will be able to process that QR code from within the system. They won't have to actually scan any QR codes there. So this is a new functionality that we are introducing, as I said, hopefully by the end of this month, that will help all the freight forwarders and cargo movers, because of course we know that in cargo ports, customs are not going to be able to access the holder's screen or a holder's mobile phone. So pre-declaration will be the key.
Well, that's answered another question, Davor, who they're inquiring, because they say there's often delays at customs, so that pre-declaration will be useful for a lot of people, I think, so which is great.
Yes, and it will also allow customs to look at how they process carnets at the moment. So to give you an indication, so for example, let's say you jump on a ferry at Calais. Of course, normally the French customs will process your GMR, and that GMR will also have the information about the ATA Carnet within it. So in theory, I'm not going to say this will happen, but in theory, as soon as the GMR is validated on entry into Calais, Border Force will know that those particular goods are on their route to the UK. They're currently crossing the channel. So they will be able to then go into the pre-declaration and process it in advance of the goods arriving on UK soil. So in theory, the driver could receive a text message to say, your GMR is fine, your carnet has been processed, drive forward. So potentially drivers may not even have to go to Sevington, for example, to get their carnet processed on arrival. But again, this is a theoretical possibility. It's down to Border Force and HMRC to implement it. Of course, it could be a feature for AEO registered exporters, shippers. So we'll see, but it certainly gives us that added layer of functionality.
And you know, I think we've mentioned in the past when we discussed it, Davor, Border Force and HMRC, they're fully behind this, and they want it to work, and they want it to work as soon as possible, really, don't they?
That's correct, yes, purely because ATA Carnets and I believe TIR Carnets are one of the last paper documents out there. So of course, Border Force is now used to processing everything electronically. You have the inventory link declarations, you have other forms of declarations, documents, certificates, it's all moving digital. So of course, it makes perfect sense to move Carnets into the digital domain. And again, customs are more used to processing things digitally than they are processing on paper. So for example, when I went to the customs house at Heathrow, when I went to Stop 24 Sevington Western Docks, every single officer that we demonstrated the digital Carnet functionality to actually preferred processing Carnets electronically, because it's just a second nature to them, because everything else they do is done electronically. So yes, as you say, Anne, customs are very keen to keep moving this forward.
So I think you may have answered this, but we'll just go over it again because it's coming again. Digital Carnet works via air freight, London Heathrow. Currently, obviously, they have to take it to Customs House, which we know at Heathrow to be stamped. But with the digital Carnet, they can preempt that by sending the QR code. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. So I mean, during the during the testing phase, the way. Okay, so currently, let's say with the customs house, currently the forwarder or the agent takes the paper Carnet and print out of the airway bill to the reception at the customs house. Then those documents are all taken into the back office for Border Force to process. So what will happen in the transition period? Because of course paper Carnet will have to be processed until we switch to digital Carnets. The holders can literally just print the QR code off and they can enclose it with the paper Carnet. So if you are testing digital Carnets, you can just print the QR code off and enclose it with a paper Carnet. Once the pre-declaration is implemented in a system, as I said, hopefully by the end of this month, then you will also be able to push the digital Carnet over to them as pre-declaration, and then they'll be able to process it at the same time as they're processing your customs entry and the paper Carnet. So yes, so it will definitely simplify the way things are being done, and it will also mean that the agents and freight forwarders won't have to physically go to customs house anymore. You'll be able to do everything remotely.
Fantastic. I mentioned this about the will there be a possible link in future to the Carnets portal and the entry into CDS or something like that, equivalent in another country?
Yes, I mean that's a very good question. So as things stand, digital Carnets will sit outside of a CDS and they will sit outside of the government systems. I mean, electronic Carnet data will be available to customs. Therefore, it is up to various customs around the world to decide whether they wish to sort of integrate this electronic data with their own internal systems. So, I mean, we are certainly pushing for that. However, it's far too early in the process to even start looking at it. But again, it should be possible, but you know, of course, it will take money. It will cost money. It will take time to implement and build this within CDS and everything else. So it may not happen in anytime soon, let's put it that way. But the beauty is that once you push the pre-declaration through the customs portal, customs will be able to process the standard customs entry and the digital Carnet declaration at the same time. So so it will still be easier in terms of how we process everything, but that integration may not happen anytime soon. Let's put it that way.
Okay, thank you. There's a couple of practicalities for specific countries. So someone's asking, typical, but as I say, it flips down the screen, whether Ireland and Northern Ireland will be treated any differently under this, or you know, we have a strange situation with other things there. So, or would it be exactly the same process?
So the process will be the same. So whatever rules apply to the paper Carnet will also apply to the digital Carnet as well. So from at least to begin with, of course, as I said, customs will be able to simplify processes further in time, but of course at the moment we are literally just replicating the paper functionality into the digital functionality. And I can also confirm that we are going to start working with Irish customs in the very near future to start testing Carnets across Holyhead and Dublin port. Port of Dublin rather. So from that point of view, at least the Carnet users going to Republic of Ireland will be able to sort of hopefully in the near future start testing digital Carnets across that route as well. In terms of Northern Ireland, of course, we will have to see what the newest agreements, what effect the Windsor, I think, framework has on the movement of goods to Northern Ireland. So, of course, we will advise all the Carnet users accordingly. But yeah, at the end of the day, the digital Carnet system will be able to cater for different scenarios and different ways of processing Carnets. Let's just put it that way.
And so it's asked, if they apply for a Carnet for 6 months cover, but something happens and they need to extend it, can that be done easily through the system? Is there a specific process or?
Yes. So I mean, well, I guess all the Carnets we issue in the UK at least are valid for 12 months automatically. So that Carnet will be valid for 12 months regardless. Issuing chambers, of course, will be able to shorten the validity of that Carnet. So if the Carnet expires or if the validity has been restricted by the issuing chamber, then the applicant will have to get a replacement Carnet, which is of course an extension Carnet. So if the original Carnet is issued with a shorter validity, then I'm afraid it will expire once you reach that deadline, and of course you'll have to then apply for a replacement Carnet or for a new Carnet if the goods have already returned to the UK.
Fantastic. And I think the final question, and if we haven't get around to ask your questions, we'll come back to you at a later date. Has it actually been tested on the road transport, something going by road?
At the moment, well, various countries around the world have been involved, and you can see them on your screen here. So these countries have actually been involved in testing digital Carnets in various scenarios as well. I think from the UK perspective, we are really waiting for French customs to start testing digital Carnets so we can open up the Dover-Dunkirk route. I think French customs already made it clear that the Calais route is far too busy for them to add these additional processes into the mix. However, they'll be happy to open things up at Dunkirk. So once that happens, we'll be able to test how the RoRo movements will work in respect of digital Carnets. But again, as I said earlier, I suspect we are going to be using pre-declarations for the RoRo ports. So customs are going to have visibility of that shipment coming to the port even before the cargo arrives.
Finally, somebody's just asked if they can see the timing phase slide again so that they can get a bit more fay with how that's going to work.
So these timings are very loose. They're just indicative. So the idea at the international stage is to go live in 2025, or at least this will be the current pilot countries. So, but of course, there will be many factors influencing that timeline. As you can imagine, a country like UK, you have plenty of customs office or customs ports processing ATA Carnets. All these ports have to have the relevant digital infrastructure ready for them. All the officers will have to be trained up. So it's going to be a major process going forward. However, as I said, by the end of the first quarter next year, we will have a good idea as to when UK may be ready to go live. As I said, we are currently working on a national rollout plan together with HMRC.
So it's watch this space on that then, Davor, and keep in touch with your chambers that are issuing your Carnets, like ourselves at Thames Valley, because we will keep you up to date with the news and everything that's happening. So fundamentally, you know, it's coming. It's not going to not come. So you need to, you know, you need to be well aware that what is happening, but also we need people to be prepared to take part in the pilots. You know, how can you find out more about Carnets and the digital pilot? Well, the contacts for the Thames Valley there on your screen. You contact us, email us, click onto our digital ATA Carnet pilot part of our website. But we really need, in order to push this forward, and to help all of you guys that are exporting temporary exports we really need companies to participate in the pilot. You know, a little pain means a lot of gain in the long run. So, excuse me. So we would please urgently do get in touch. We will be obviously contacting you individually, but I'd like to thank Davor for today. We've given him a good grilling on the digital Carnet. So thank you, Davor, and thank you all the participants. And we will send out the presentation and a copy of the actual webinar to you, so you can look again at your own thing. So thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to keeping you involved in digital Carnets.